Hey everybody, Mr. Troy here. This is our second video on solving quadratic equations. Um, After this, there are going to be two exercises for you to do, which I will have at the end of the video so you know what to do. All right, here we go. All right, so we are going to start with a special note. One, we are not going to take the square root of a negative number. So if I end up with x squared equals 144, that's okay. I can take the square root and I can say x equals plus or minus 12. But if I get x squared equals negative 144, I can't take the square root of that right now. You'll learn how to do it in Algebra 2. So when you look at the plus or minus 12 from the previous one, the positive 144, if you take positive 12 and you do positive 12 times positive 12, we know from elementary school that a positive times a positive is a positive. If you do negative 12 times negative 12, we know that a negative times a negative is also a positive. So that's why both of those things equal 144, why there are two answers. There's nothing right now that we can multiply by itself and get a negative. I can't do a positive times a positive to get negative 144, and I can't do a negative times a negative to get 144, negative 144. You might look at that and say, well, why not do a positive times a negative? Well, because squaring means multiplying something by itself. They have to be the same. Okay, so this situation is going to give us no real solutions. Just one quick note. If I have x squared equals 0, and I take the square root of both sides, that's going to give me x equals, well, plus or minus 0, but 0 is neither positive nor negative, so that's just 0. Not negative 0, not positive 0. Okay. The next type of equation we have to learn how to solve is when there is something squared. Now, it's important that there's just one thing being squared, so you have to be able to think of the equation as, something is being squared. Heart squared equals 9. Oh, plus or minus 3. There are going to be similar restrictions to if it was x minus 3 plus x squared, but x minus 3 squared is going to be okay. So we can take the square root of this, but what's important is that we have to take the square root with the square here. You can't add 3 here. So you cannot do a plus 3 plus 3. So we're going to take the square root. The left side is going to become x minus 3. The square and the square root cancel each other out. That's why we use the square root, because it's the opposite of a square. And that's going to give us plus or minus 3. Now, that doesn't mean the answer is plus or minus 6, though, or that the answer is positive or negative 3. So we're going to split this up as x minus 3 equals positive 3, that's the plus side, and x minus 3 equals negative 3, that's the minus side. So together these make plus or minus 3. We can add 3 to both sides of both of these equations, and we're going to get two answers. The equation on the left is going to give us x equals 0, and the equation on the right is going to give us x equals 6. The way that you normally say that something has two solutions is to put it in little curly brackets and say 0 and 6 are solutions. If we use those curly brackets, we know that it's not like an x comma y, because that would be parentheses. Okay, so what you have to think about is getting the thing being squared by itself. So in this problem, you want to get the x plus 4 squared by itself, which would just mean getting rid of the 2. So what things can you square to get 25? Well, negative 5 and positive 5. But that doesn't mean that that's what x would be. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take the square root of both sides. Those cancel out. And we're going to get x plus 4 equals plus or minus 5, positive 5 or negative 5. We're going to split that up. We're going to say x plus 4 could be negative 5, or x plus 4 could be positive 5. So our solutions are going to be negative 9 or 1. Okay, pause the video, try the next two on your own, and I'll put the answers up in just a second. Okay, so here are some answers. As you can see down here, another way to write your answer is just saying x equals negative 14 or x equals negative 6. Some people feel like they're not really that great at making the curly brackets, so they just want to write x equals this or x equals that. So to our problems, our answers are x equals negative 14 or x equals 6. That's for problem 3. And then for problem 4, x equals negative 4 or x equals 6. The numbers in this type of problem are not going to be opposites of each other. So as soon as you see the parentheses, you're not going to get 6 and negative 6 anymore, because the opposite part is happening before you add the 1, for example, in this problem. Okay, so here's what you have to do for, I guess, homework, or here's what your assignment is. The exercise quadratics by taking square roots, and the exercise quadratics by taking square roots strategy. The first one is just, can you do 4 of those problems to practice? And the second one is, can you do some error analysis and can you decide what good steps are? Okay, see you in class. Have fun.